All right, let's dive right in. We're going to start with the one thing you feel most certain about, yourself. And from there, believe it or not, we're going to zoom all the way out to the fundamental code that might just write the entire universe.
So let's start with that question. Who are you, really? If you strip away your job, your name, all the labels, what's left? There's this undeniable feeling of I, right? But what is that exactly? And right away, that question throws us into our first big puzzle, the nature of the self. You can think of it as a kind of paradox, like a painter who seems to be trapped inside their own painting. Imagine it. A painter is painting a self-portrait, but in that portrait, he's also painting, so the painting includes another painter painting another portrait, and on and on and on, forever. So where's the real painter? This is the whole problem of self-reference. You are somehow both the one experiencing your life and the subject of that experience. Okay, so maybe it's simpler. Maybe you're just physical stuff, your body. But think about the classic paradox of the ship of Theseus. If you replace every single plank of a ship one by one, is it still the same ship at the end? Because your body does that too. Over the years, almost all of your atoms get replaced. Are you the same person you were 7 years ago? While the answer seems to be that your identity isn't in the material itself. It's not the atoms, it's not the planks of the ship. It's the pattern that keeps going. A rope is a perfect way to think about it. No single fiber runs the entire length of the rope, but the rope itself has a continuous identity. You aren't the fibers, you are the rope, you are the pattern. So, if you're a pattern, how does that pattern actually experience anything? How do you feel the present moment? That brings us to our next idea, thinking about consciousness as a wave. The feeling of now is kind of like riding the crest of a wave. The future isn't some fixed thing. It's more like a sea of possibilities, right? A total blur of what could happen. But as that wave of potential rushes towards the present, it collapses into one single solid reality, the moment you're living in right now.
And that peak right there, that's it. That's where what we could call the density of self is at its absolute maximum. It's that sharp, focused, undeniable feeling of being right here in the now. You're riding the very tip of that wave where all the maybes become a definite is.
We can actually visualize this with a model called the lozenge of self. And notice, it's not just a single dot on a line. It has depth. To the left, you have your memories, kind of fading and diffusing into the past. And to the right, you have all those future possibilities converging on you. But right in the center, that's you. That's the pulse of your awareness in the present moment. But this whole model raises a massive question. If we're on a wave, why does that wave only seem to go in one direction? Why does time only flow forward? Let's get into it. And this is one of the biggest paradoxes in all of physics. The fundamental laws, like gravity, electromagnetism, they don't care about the direction of time. The equations work perfectly fine forwards or backwards. But your experience? No way. It is a powerful one-way street. You remember yesterday, not tomorrow. You can break an egg, but you can't unbreak it.
So here's a mind-bending proposal. What if the arrow of time isn't a fundamental property of the universe at all? What if it's a property of the pattern that's doing the observing? What if the arrow of time is built into you?
And this is where that lozenge model is just so brilliant. Its shape is naturally lopsided, it's asymmetric. The way memory spreads out behind you is totally different from how future possibilities narrow in front of you. That structure, which is part of you as a conscious pattern, is what creates the feeling of time moving forward. In fact, it almost perfectly mirrors the causal structure of spacetime, the light cone, from Einstein's relativity.
Okay, so we've gone from the self to the arrow of time. Now let's zoom out, like all the way out, to the biggest scale imaginable. Let's talk about the birth of universes.
So, what if universes aren't just these one-and-done deals that pop out of nowhere? This image suggests a really radical idea. What if they're part of a grand cosmic family tree, a lineage where the death of one universe actually becomes the seed for the next one?
So how could that possibly work? Well, think about it. Time requires change, right? If nothing changes, time doesn't really exist. At the very beginning of a universe, you've got this state of perfect symmetry. No change, so no time. And at the very, very end, you have heat death. Everything is uniform, maximum entropy, again, no change, so no time. And here is the key insight. Those two states, the perfect beginning and the perfectly uniform end, are basically the same thing. The end of one universe is the perfect blank slate for the next one to kick off.
Okay, Now for our final and maybe most mind-bending leap. If reality is a pattern and universes are patterns, what's the language it's all written in? What if reality is made of knots?
First, a super quick explainer. Knot theory is a branch of math that studies, you guessed it, knots. These are closed loops that can be all tangled up. And the amazing thing is that every distinct knot has a unique mathematical identity, a sort of permanent fingerprint that doesn't change no matter how you twist or stretch the loop.
You know, this idea of connecting physics to these kinds of shapes isn't brand new. Way back in the 19th century, the famous physicist Lord Kelvin had this hunch that maybe atoms were just different kinds of knots in some kind of cosmic fluid he called the ether. Now, he was wrong about the details, but that core intuition, that fundamental things could just be different shapes, was, wow, incredibly profound.
And that brings us to the real core of this idea. What if an interaction between, say, two particles? What if it isn't an event that happens at a point in space and time? What if the interaction is the shape of their paths? The very tangle, the braid, the nexus where their world lines cross, that is the physical event. The geometry is the physics.
So let's just take that thought all the way to its ultimate conclusion. Could it be that the entire blueprint for a universe, all of its physical laws, every fundamental constant, everything is encoded in the mathematical fingerprint of a single vast cosmic knot? A timeless blueprint that defines everything that ever was or will be?
And that brings us full circle, all the way back to the beginning. Back to you. If the whole universe can be described as a knot, and a particle interaction is a knot, what about a conscious mind? That self-referential pattern, writing its own personal wave of time. Is it possible that a conscious self is simply the most complex, the most intricate knot that reality has ever managed to tie?